Hi, I'm Alexa Blair Robertson, and I play the role of Mia in Terrifier 3. And you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So I am so excited to be joined by today's guests. Today I'm talking to Alexa Blair Robinson, who plays Mia in Terrifier 3. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Alexa.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, very excited. And we're going to start things off just by saying, heads up, guys, that this interview will contain spoilers. So make sure that you have seen the film and then, come back and watch the interview because we're really going to get into the film. But before we dive into Terrifier, Alex, I'm curious for you, what was your relationship with the horror genre prior to joining this movie?
So I have to be transparent and say that I had not seen Terrifier prior to starting the audition process. That being said, I have always loved horror. I would say from a young age, my girlfriends and I used to like sneak Saw movies into our sleepovers, and like we totally were not allowed to watch those, but like I was still drawn to that. I just thought it was epic, and I liked how it made me feel something from the inside out. That kind of was coupled with the fact that I was pre-med and all throughout school, and so I've always been extremely interested in like anatomy and things like that. So I am the opposite of squeamish. I always thought I'd be a surgeon. So I spent a lot of time observing in the OR, and I've seen like, the human body from every angle. So I just think I've always been really intrigued about how we're able to translate that into film. So being involved in a body horror film is honestly kind of a dream that I didn't even realize I had until it was happening.
And I can see why you're a big fan of like the Saw franchise, which is like I can't believe that franchise is like it's still going to with its latest entry, and then the first one just had its 20 or having like 20th anniversary showings. And it's like I remember seeing that in theaters for for the
Makes me feel
opening
old. Yeah.
day. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, so that's cool. I always like to ask guests, kind of what your relationship was with horror, because sometimes I'll have people, especially for the Terrifier films, that come on and they're like, oh, wasn't a horror fan at all. This was kind of like the first time doing it. And it's like, wow, what a way to kind of get, into the genre. So now when you first got the script for this film, now did you audition for Mia initially? Was there anybody else that you went for? Because I know sometimes it can be like multiple characters.
Yeah, no, totally. So from the get-go, Mia was kind of my route, and that was what was initially pitched to me via my agents. And it was one of those things where, round one, I treated it like any other audition where I was just like, you know what, I'm going to give it my all. I'm have my little self-tape set up in my living room, and just luckily my roommate read with me, and we did our best. And then we get to the next round, and I'm like, okay, well, I should start like really doing my research and my due diligence. And I reached out to a friend of mine who I know is like a major Terrifier fan. And I was like, hey, like, can you shed some light on this for me? And he freaked out. He was like, you've got to go for it with all you've got. Like, this would be an insane experience. Like, Damien's my idol. Like, you just say you have to make it happen. So I was like, that was kind of the fire I needed, I guess. And, I sent in multiple takes, multiple different versions of Mia and ways that I thought that she could fit into the script. And I really felt like I left it all on the floor, if that makes sense, for the final auditions. And I really just I went for it, and it paid off. And I loved Mia from the start. I had fun with it. And I think that's what really showed through in the self-tapes.
And what was your reaction to, I'm curious, when you first actually sat down and got to read the script, especially when you saw some of the scenes in there? What was your initial reaction?
Well, it was kind of funny because from the beginning they did say like in the breakdown they were like, like there's going to be like some really intense like body horror scenes involved with this. And again, not knowing the Terrifier franchise, my head is like, "Oh yeah, like I love horror, like totally." And then I read the script for the first time and my jaw dropped just because I was like, I love horror, but I have never seen anything like this in my life. Like, this is a whole nother beast, which is why people love Terrifier. Damien is constantly outdoing himself and pushing the bar higher and further. And I was drawn to that just because I was like, I have literally no clue how we can physically make what is written here possible. Like, I have no idea. It seems so outlandish. And I think that made me even more excited because I was like, what a treat, what a challenge as an artist. Because even though I have watched a lot of horror films, I have never actually personally stepped into the genre in that way. I've always been an observer. So to be in the thick of the action and to see how they make the magic happen and to really like get into the nitty gritty of the logistics and the angles, like it was like a fire within me. I was really excited by it. And I was like a little bit like, holy crap, like what am I getting myself into? But at the same time, it made me way more excited. I think that like going the extra mile really was like the challenge that I've been looking for in my career. And I actually started out the year being like, I want to push myself. I want to grow. I want to see like what I'm capable of. I really want to push that limit within myself. And then this fell into my life and I was like, this isn't what I meant per se, but I am so stoked about it. So
So you got what you asked for sure, I would say with this role.
yes, definitely, definitely. I was like, I didn't mean getting murdered in a shower, but no, I'll take
Yeah, we'll,
it.
we'll go with it. And,
Yeah.
for you guys, the films, it starts hitting like festivals and things like that. People are finally starting to see the film. You hear the reactions that people are walking out of the theater, people are, passing out because of how intense it is. As someone who's involved with the film, and especially you said this is kind of your first step into the genre as an artist, what is your reaction when you start hearing those comments coming from different outlets and just different people online?
It's pretty epic just because being kind of a newcomer to this community, I did not realize what a like, for lack of a better word, rabid fan base there is. Like
Oh
people
yeah.
have been waiting for this. They are waiting in lines for this. They are getting those pre-sale tickets. They're going to wherever they can to see the pre-showings of this film. And I was just honored. They told me that like when I joined the franchise, David's like, congrats, like you're entering a really cool community, you're entering this family. And of course, like, I'm like, yeah, like that's so exciting. But then to like start seeing that response via social media and getting like emails from people who are just like, I've been waiting for this film for 2 years and like I loved your scene, and like getting that support from people who truly love the genre, it really it made me feel super like proud of what we created, and like I did it justice, because when you're new and you're doing something so outlandish, you can sometimes feel a little bit like I need to do this film justice and this make it as epic as it can be. And knowing that I felt like it was a job well done based on the response. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
just really, really cool to see how much people care about Art and Vicky and Sienna. Like it's just sick. I'm happy to be a small part.
Oh yeah, I mean so I like throughout the year I go to different like Comic-Con conventions, like specifically some like horror ones. And yeah, I mean just the lines that some of the people for the Terrifier cast have, it's and just seeing it over the years, like we were talking about before we jumped on, just seeing this franchise kind of evolve from, even before the first Terrifier films when art first popped up, and then getting that first movie, Terrifier 2, 2.5, almost like 2.5 hours long. And
Yeah.
then, this film, it's just been, really crazy to, and it's like, as a big horror fan myself, I'm so excited to see a movie like this succeed. But I would say that horror fans are probably some of the most passionate fans like out there, as you're probably witnessing yourself now with this movie coming out.
Totally. I mean, the fan pages pop up so quick. I'm like, Mia has an Instagram now. And I'm like, that's so cool. I'm like, you guys are quick with it. Or
Oh
like
yeah.
going to the LA premiere, people were in full like art makeup and costume. And it was just I felt I was like, this is so cool. Like I just I didn't know, what I was stepping into, but I feel so happy to be here and feel very supported entering kind of a wild ride.
Oh yeah.
It, like nothing can
To
really
say the
prepare
least.
you for Terrifier. But somehow knowing that I have like all these people like supporting the journey has made it so much better. So
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And so your character, she, kind of earlier on in the film, she shares a pretty intense scene with Sienna that I really enjoyed. Can you just talking about working with, Lauren Lavera? I mean, everyone else in the scene as well, but Lauren specifically, where now, especially with the second film, she's really kind of cemented herself as a modern screen queen. So what was it like, working with her?
totally. I tell anyone who asks, that was honestly one of the highlights for me of the entire filming process was being able to work with her. Like she's a force. We know this. Just like you said, she's already cemented herself in this kind of like elusive, infamous final girl echelon. But the power that she brings with her into a scene, it was an energetic exchange that I feel like inspired me as an artist. I'm not sure if I have felt that kind of force from somebody in a scene before. So for me, it made me crave it. Like I was like, yes, like I am in the right space. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to work with. Like she inspires me so much. And being able to have an up close front row seat to her reactions and how deep she's able to dive, even in like a seemingly menial scene, you know, like no one was dying there, you know,
Yeah.
and the fact that she was still able to bring so much and so much substance, and it was tangible, palpable. It was really inspiring as an artist. And she's also just such a kind human being. And she had so many encouraging words to share with me and Mason, both of who were newcomers to the franchise and just the horror genre in general. And being able to like have that kind of quality, intimate conversation with someone who is very established in their career and their trajectory, it was truly like a priceless moment for me and Mason both. I know we were both very inspired. That was only a one day kind of thing, you know, but I
Yeah.
was so grateful to have the opportunity to share that space with her.
Yeah, I'll say it was, I mean, it was a very emotional scene. So even though,
Oh,
like you said, like there wasn't people dying, people
yeah.
getting beat up or anything like that, just the emotion because of obviously what her character had been through in the second film. And that was probably like one of my favorite aspects of Terrifier 3 was just that emotional dealing with that trauma that
Yeah.
anyone would be dealing with going through something like that in the second movie. And so I feel like what you're saying, that being around someone like that just brings this level of intensity to their performance. It really kind of like it helps elevate almost everyone else's performance like around them as well.
Absolutely. And we all felt it. Like even Mason, who wasn't directly involved in that exchange between me and Sienna, he was like, I felt that. He was like, yeah, that was the one. He was like, that was real. And when she would slam on the table, like the reaction was so just genuine and authentic for me because I was like, yeah, you're scaring me, girl. Like you about to hit me or something.
I'm sure there was probably goosebumps there for sure from you guys.
Absolutely. And actually, that scene, I remember we had like our casting director came to set for that scene. Like, so we had a full house kind of behind the camera as well. So it was just, it definitely felt everyone was excited to see that. And it
Yeah.
was really cool to be on in that energetic exchange with her for sure.
And now another scene that we're going to talk about that, everyone I feel like is going to be talking about for a while, the infamous shower scene. So it's going to be one of those scenes that's going to be talked about, in the horror community for a while, just like the bedroom scene was in Terrifier 2. And I'm sure a lot obviously went into filming the scene. Just, I mean, the amount of gore, prosthetics and things like that. So can you just kind of break down filming that specific scene?
Absolutely. So ironically, well, I guess not ironically, kind of makes sense. That was the final scene that Mason and I filmed together. So we were both grateful to have the opportunity to really get to know each other
Yeah.
and build some rapport before embarking on that experience. Because I mean, like I said, nothing can prepare you for that. And also, uh, we were both new and neither of us had ever had a prosthetic supplied, less enough have so many different elements such as water, blood, fake glass, steam, like so many different elements thrown in our face. So it took a lot of preparation, and I have to give like kudos to everyone involved. But basically, the process started with me going to Tensley Studios, and I was able to go through kind of the whole works that you can do in the prosthetic community, which was we did a full head cast, which was such a unique experience. I've never had anything like that done before. And we also did a full body cast, and they did all of the skin matching, the hair matching. It was really so cool to see how they create these special effects that you see in so many incredible films. And there are things that you don't even realize fall into the special effects genre. And they're like taking measurements and coloring from things that I'm like, wait, you need that? Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, So it was such a great learning experience. I felt like a kid in a candy shop. Like I was so amped up after that. It was so cool. And Christian, who owns Tinsley Studios, he is a master of his craft. So being able to work with someone who, I mean, has done it all, has worked with everyone in the film community, every big star you can think of. It was really, really cool experience. So we did that first like body mold kind of thing. We came back in March to film. It actually took place over kind of like a 4-day stretch. And luckily, before we started filming anything, we were able to have rehearsals with our intimacy coordinator.
Yep.
Her name is Maria, and she was our angel on set. She was so amazing. She made us feel nothing but comfortable and protected. And she was always behind the camera, making sure that all of our boundaries were respected. And I truly cannot say enough kind things about her and her role that she played in creating that film or that scene. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that, like, yes, it is an intimate scene and it's has these layers to it, but at the same time, like we come into it with stipulations of our own and, like expectations of how to protect ourselves and like an intimate setting. And that actually takes a lot of work, you know? It
I
takes
can
a lot of
imagine.
time, a lot of choreography, a lot of effort in on and off camera. So so appreciate Damien and Maria for respecting us and keeping everything exactly as we were hoping and making it as seamless as possible. But yeah, so starting the actual filming process itself, we get to it was actually filmed in a high school locker tea or a locker room, which I
There
think
you
is
go.
so funny. So like I was like, oh my gosh, these kids probably have no idea what's going on at their high school this weekend. But we get there, and day one was kind of all about like pre-art, so it was kind of more about the intimacy itself, which was a really great learning opportunity for Mason and I, kind of stepping into that role and having to learn how to fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like it's a
Yeah.
really unique experience, and it kind of, I feel like, sets you up for any situation to come in the future, you know, because again, having all those elements such as like the boundaries, the choreography, the water, like it's just there's so many different aspects that we had to deal with. But Mason was amazing, and again, like communication was key there, and I feel like we really did a good job of making sure that both of us felt nothing but safe and supported. Then comes the crazy stuff. And I can't even explain to you. I mean, there were hours spent in the prosthetic chair, which for me, having never had anything applied in that manner, I was just like, oh, what are we doing now? Oh, okay. Oh, you're gonna airbrush. Oh, that's cool. Because they basically would bring out these prosthetics in like pizza boxes. And you would open it up and it would be like my like arm sawed off. And I'd be like, this is a unique experience. I was like, I don't know if anyone else has ever like experienced this before. This is pretty crazy. And so I definitely got very close with the other female crew members on the set, like Jackie with hair and makeup, and Heather with the prosthetics, and Olga. Like they really created this kind of like female, like tight-knit community, because there's some really raw and vulnerable moments there.
Yeah.
But they did an amazing job. But yeah, like I don't think anything can prepare you for having glass thrown into your face while a chainsaw is caught in your hair and then blood is being dumped on top of you with a bucket. You know, it's just
Yeah.
one of the things where like we talked about it and we choreographed it, but you had no idea what it would be like until it got going. And once it got going, there was no stopping it, you know?
That's it.
It kind of just pedal to the metal. And I think that that also elicits kind of a physical response within you. And for me, it all felt very natural. Like I felt like the environment, I was able to elevate my performance to the level that I wanted it to get to, you know, something so intense. And then even when I thought I would reach my max, Damien would be like, all right, the next octave, even deeper, get more guttural with it. And he would really guide the performance. And it felt, again, like I know I keep using this phrase, but like it was an energetic exchange. And it was so natural, and I felt so proud afterwards, just because I felt like we had to work together to create that performance. Everybody, it was a village. It takes a village to do
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
I'm blabbing now, but it was a really
No.
cool experience, and I truly felt like I learned an exponential amount from that experience, and it changed me as an artist, but it also changed me as a person, because I have such a newfound appreciation for everything that goes into a scene like that, because everyone's like, oh yeah, epic, so cool, but I'm like, you guys, like that took days and days and so much time and money invested from so many people. And so I'm just grateful that they thought that I was up to the challenge, because I also felt like I was, but you know, you
Yep.
always take someone to believe in you. So I'm so grateful that Damien saw that potential within me and brought that animal side out of me for sure.
Yeah, and even just like I mean, so it took like days just to actually film, actually film it. But like you said, even, like the months before actually preparing for the scene itself. I mean, all that prep that went into it. It's a lot that goes, I've never done obviously like anything to like that level. I've gotten to work as like an extra on like some movies. And so I've just gotten to see some of the filmmaking process, and it's crazy, if you're someone from the outside kind of looking in, you're like, oh, like what takes so long to like film, a movie or a TV show? And it's like, well, like one scene that might be like 20, 30 seconds could like take like, several hours or like almost like a day just because they want to make sure they get
100%.
all the different angles. And so I totally like understand like what you mean, that a lot, went into this, and I'm glad that you felt, safe and supported just by everybody there, because I feel like even though you guys are making a movie, I feel like it's kind of natural for your body to kind of kick into instinctual mode when someone's coming at you with a chainsaw, like you said, your hair is like tied up and
Yeah.
everything like that. So I feel like your instincts kind of just take over at some point to a degree as well.
Well, totally. And I think that's where the preparation really comes into play, though, is because my body's having this response, but I got to make sure that my hands are grabbing here on the chainsaw and not getting caught in the actual chain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's where you become so grateful to have done the prep and to have had people help you do the prep, because otherwise it actually would extend it so much. Because when you're doing a scene with so many cuts and so many camera angles and things like that, one little misstep, you got to reset the whole thing. And that's not
Yeah.
just self. That means that the blood guy's coming in and having to scrub down the wall again, and someone's washing you off with the hose. The prosthetic needs to reset. It's kind of one of those high stakes environments where you really want to be on the top of your game because you're kind of messing up everybody else too, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, something that ended up being so like super quick, but like intense, but quick. Um, that was like, yeah, 3, 4 day filming period. So it's pretty cool.
But I'm sure like once you got to finally, see the finished product, and then now other people are getting to see the finished product and you're starting to hear the reactions. I'm sure you guys are all probably like, well, it's very intense. Now it was worth it just, getting to kind of see that finished product. And have you thought about now that this is going to be one of those scenes that the horror community is going to be talking about, for years and years to come when they bring up some of the most intense moments in a horror film, some of the most like brutal kills? Like, is that something that's kind of hit you yet, or is it still kind of you're still trying to grasp that with the opening weekend?
Definitely still trying to grasp it, but like you said, I've like the response that I've gotten even before the film released kind of made me realize like, oh, people weren't just being dramatic. Like people weren't joking when they said that this is kind of like gonna have a lore, like it's gonna create kind of like a bar for the future. And there's been a lot of comparison to like the Psycho shower scene and how
Yep.
that was like a previous kind of bar or like echelon for shower murders. And like to even be compared to something iconic as that and to be a part of something that might have a legacy in that respect, it's really, really cool. And yeah, I really, like you said, I haven't really fully wrapped my head around it, but having like when I went to the LA premiere, having some people come up and like in person express like how much they enjoyed it and like how they feel like that it's going to be historic in that way, I was like, oh, okay, like thanks guys.
You're like, thanks.
Can I record you saying that? Like,
Yeah.
it felt really good. And like you said, it being kind of an intense period, I actually ended up getting a double ear infection from the filming experience from like all the water and blood that got into my ear. So I was like,
Yeah.
totally worth it. 100% worth it. I would do it 10 times over again. Losing the voice and an ear infection, who cares? It comes back, but creating something with a legacy, yeah, that's priceless. So
Yeah, because a lot of people, I mean, a lot of, artists, that's something that they dream of having, a movie or a specific scene just having an impact like that, because not everyone gets that chance to do that. So you've definitely created that here. So a
yeah.
Christmas horror movie where, you kind of on the one side you have it's supposed to be like one of the most happiest times of the year. You have all the lights, you have the music and everything going like that. But then on the other side, you have Art the Clown terrorizing, chasing people around. So what was it like to kind of like just film that contrasting experience where it's like you have, it's like, oh, because watching the movie, it's weird that I was like, oh, wow, this movie makes me feel kind of cozy, the parts with like the lights and because it has that vintage like 80s like feel to it. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, there's a lot of brutal murders going on. So what was it kind of like having that weird experience between the two?
Well, okay, so I actually waited to watch any of the film until the premiere because I wanted to see it on the big screen. I wanted to get the full effect. There were some points in which Damon was like, "Oh, do you want to see a clip?" And I was like, "Honestly, I want to wait. Like, I want to, like you said, like have that like physical response and see how it makes me feel." And I 100% know what you're saying because, of course, we open it up and I'm like, oh my God, like she's so cute. Like, oh, like, like I'm like falling in love with the characters. And then suddenly art enters and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we're here for. Like I completely forgot. And like obviously he sets the bar pretty high with that opening murder scene. But then when you would have those like beautiful, tender moments between Gabby and Sienna, or even I know like my character can be she's not everyone's favorite cup of tea, but like her moments with Cole and Jonathan, like you would forget, and then you'd snap back to some intense murder. And like, I almost found myself towards the end, like just loving the comedic aspects of it as well. Like, Damien doesn't want to create some, horrific experience. Like, there's so much depth and emotion within this script, like that I feel like slashers sometimes go without, and
Yeah.
it's not black and white. Like you said, there's so much color. And it was a really well-rounded experience, in my opinion. And like towards the end, I'm like, getting into it. I'm like screaming, I'm
Yeah.
gasping, I'm laughing, which like, I don't know. I don't feel like you usually go into a film with a rep like Terrifier expecting to like find joy as well. But I think that's what makes it really special and just it's entertaining as heck,
Oh yeah.
Like no one can say anything like that. Like I was locked in. Anyone I've gone to see it twice now, and both times everyone I was with were just locked in. And like I'm every time I've seen it, it's gotten better. Like I find a new detail or a new joke or a new like silly thing that like inside joke within the crew, Like
Yeah.
I
And I
I
feel
I
like
can pick up good things.
it'll get even better too, because I know like the movie's coming out before like the Halloween season, which is perfect because it's like right in the middle
Yes.
of like spooky season and everything.
Movie season, yeah.
But then it's like, it's a Christmas horror movie too. So I feel like once like as you watch it around like the holidays too, obviously probably not with your family, but
It has longevity for sure. And I feel like it's one of those films that like for people who are super into horror and Terrifier, like it's gonna be a yearly thing. It's gonna be like, yes, it's spooky season, let's watch it. Ooh, it's Christmas, let's watch it, And
yeah.
and I love that as well. And like you said, it just gets better. So I certainly will be making it a tradition for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like you said too with the comedy aspect to it, I feel like it's for a movie like this, it is important to have kind of that balance. And that's hard to do with like horror films, I feel like sometimes, but to have that balance of comedic elements to it because there is so many gruesome moments as far as like the kills and stuff like that go that you have to have that in there. Otherwise, like, you're saying it could be a little bit too intense if it was all just like straight up
Yeah.
murders and mean for no reason. And
Yeah, you have to have some relief. And I feel like Damien has really mastered that art of like, it's just going to keep getting worse, but at the same time, you also are like invested in the storyline too,
yeah.
And like, even when someone's going to die, you're like, but I love them. Like, they're so funny. Like, no, you get invested. So
Yeah, and I can tell you, like, I can tell you how like invested I was by the end of the film, and that the third act just gets like super intense. But
super.
when Sienna, like, I was just sitting there, and I was like getting ready to like almost stand up out of my seat and just yell at the screen and be like, Sienna, kick their ass! Like, I just wanted to, after all the horrible things that
Yeah,
happens to her family, it's like, come on, Sienna. So that's when you can tell that you're really invested in a movie
seriously.
when you care that much about
Yeah.
the characters like that.
Yeah. And you just want to root you have no choice but to root for her,
Yeah.
like I don't know. And it was pretty cool to like watching it in a full packed theater and like hearing people's gasp and like you said, like people under their breath being like, let's go, like, yeah, like get them, like cheering whenever she does make, a cut on art and things like that. So
Yeah.
like you said, it was just a really like it was like a communal experience, and it was really it felt very familial. And I know that seemed like an unexpected addition to entering a super gory franchise. Like I don't think that that's something that people would expect by joining the Terrifier, but it really is like a family, even like an extended one with so many people supporting. And like it's a niche indie kind of film, but it's become this phenomenon. And I think that's just, it speaks to everyone's dedication, both in creating the film and supporting the film.
Yeah, you can tell there's a lot of passion behind the project, both behind the camera, but also, the fans as well. And Damien, Leone, we've talked about him during the interview, but so he's directed, written, done the effects for the film. The guy's, pretty much like
Everything.
done it all. So
Yeah.
can you just talk about, the experience of working with him, but also what makes him stand out as a director for you? I know you kind of mentioned that he kind of helped you elevate your performance, but can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for starters, I just need to give him his flowers for being such an incredible human outside of like all of his spectacular talent and vision in regards to Terrifier. He's just a great guy. Like you can just feel it the second you meet him. And that was another kind of stipulation when I was joining the franchise is like, if I was going to agree to be doing an intimate scene and to be stepping into such unfamiliar territory, I was like, I need to make sure that I feel like supported and like cool with the people who are like directing the vision and coming into it with some of like parameters in regard like hard lines that I wasn't willing to cross. I
Yeah,
was like, I need to make sure that I feel like that we're on the same team, if that makes
it
sense.
makes
And so
sense. Yeah.
we had like a Zoom meeting to just kind of talk over some of my like parameters. And I remember like ending that meeting and just being like, no, this is right. Like this is a partnership that I would love to pursue. And I just feel like it's going to create only great things and that he is in it for like the best of reasons. Like he just loves making epic stuff, And
Yeah.
so just for starters, like what an awesome person. And then in terms of like working with him on set, he is definitely the head honcho. Like his say goes in regards to like everyone just sees and respects his genius and knows that like at one point he was doing everyone's job, like it's gotten bigger and like now there's like, other people involved, but like at one point, like this was entirely his artistic fruition, And so it's just pretty cool because like I just have never been on a set like that where a director was not only directing but editing, writing, special effects. Like when he would come into like the like dressing area and like edit like Art's blood splatters on his face. Like I was like, this is so cool to have someone so hands-on and just invested with every fiber of his being. Like there were jokes of like he like wasn't sleeping, like he would film one scene and then come back the next day from editing it the night of. And I was like, you're a beast, like to be that committed, not just creating something, but creating something great. Like he wants to outdo himself every time. And I just think that I can't say enough great things about him.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he must, set the bar for himself. I'm sure, like super high, and it just like we've talked about, he continues to surpass it. It seems like, with every movie. But yeah, I don't know when the guy sleeps. I mean, he's already. So we just had the third film come out, and now Terrifier 4 has been announced, and I'm sure he's
oh
probably
yeah,
got other plans. So it's just like, I mean, hats off to him because like the work
seriously.
ethic that goes into that. I'm sure it inspires all of you guys too. Just it's like look at someone putting in that much work and you're just like, how the hell do you do it, man?
No, totally. And like I actually talked to Lauren about this, but when he's on set, he definitely kind of has like when he's like behind the camera, he kind of has blinders on sometimes. Like he'll get the shot, he's like, great, let's go. Like it moves very quickly. Whereas I've definitely been on some sets where it's like over and over and over and over again. But like he's kind of
Yeah.
like when he gets what he wants, he knows what he wants and he keeps going kind of thing.
Yeah.
And me and Lauren were like, we'll sometimes check in with him and be like, hey, so like, did you like it? Like, was that good? And he's like, oh my God, like I wouldn't move on if I didn't like love it, Like, so it's kind of funny. Like he gets a little bit like in his zone and I have to be like, did you like that scream? Like, was that good? Did I die good?
And
But
he's like, yeah, you're good.
it's exactly like he knows he's definitely like a perfectionist in that way where he's not going to move on if he doesn't get what he wants, but he definitely like he's a workhorse and he just wants to keep going. So
And I think
that is cool.
I think that helps too, like where you said where he's done everything that it helps having someone that so they know exactly what they're looking for, where they've had to take on all those
Yes.
different roles in a film so they can work with kind of each one of those departments, almost like one on one. So that doesn't definitely doesn't happen like too often. It's like, you have a director. I mean, they might do a couple things, but it's not like almost every aspect of the film. It's
Yeah,
like,
totally. And like you said, like it makes him more efficient because he's going to be the one editing it. So he knows exactly what he needs out of a certain,
yeah.
angle. And he's just like, great. And it's awesome. And I think that, like you said, like I've been on sets where like the director shows up, as a scene starting, but no, Damien's there when we get there and Damien's there after when we leave, like he's the heart and soul of the operation. So it's
Gets
pretty
his
cool.
hands dirty for sure.
100, that to say the
In more
least.
ways, yeah, say more
Sometimes
ways.
he would leave and like be covered in blood. Like I remember when we finished shooting my final like death, like she's done kind
Yeah.
of death. I was completely, I'll have to post this photo at some point because it's truly unbelievable. Like you don't recognize me. I look like a demon or something. Like I'm
Oh
just covered
yeah.
in prosthetics and blood. And I was like, oh, like Damien, let's get a picture. And he just grabs me and like hugs me. And I was like, wait, you're gonna get like all bloody. And he's like, do you think I care? Like what? So
He's like, do you know who I am?
that was pretty epic. Like I was like, he's right there in it with you, and he knows exactly what he wants, and that feels pretty cool to be a part of that vision and to know that we created what he was dreaming up in that mastermind head of his.
I
So,
say he loves that kind of stuff. And no, so I'm curious for you, where you are a big like horror fan, what makes art so scary for you, like personally?
well, when you meet David Hawthorne and you get to hang out with him, um, you just can't help but love art. Like, I know that sounds crazy, and like, yes, I know he's sadistic and so scary, but I'm like, they're just inseparable for me. And like, David is just such a hilarious human being, and like his mannerisms, like, I don't think people realize, but a lot of the time when he's on set, they'll get him into his makeup and they'll like have him like have a basic action in the script, and he will literally improvise everything. Like,
Oh
he
wow.
very he just gets out there and has fun with it. And I think that that translates for sure, because he takes on this kind of like pantomime larger than life personality on set. You don't get that layer with most sadistic killers, you know?
No.
Usually, I think films really try to amp up that side of a killer, like, like the like scary, like elusive, mysterious side. But no, art is like quite the opposite. Like, he's so conspicuous and like has duality to him, like his like childlike fun and the wonder with Santa Claus. Like, that's hilarious. You don't get that,
That
And like
scene
you
was
said,
so
like
funny.
it's the comedy. And I think that the comedy in continuity with the fact that he knows no bounds and no limits and is so creative with his killing makes him in a weird way lovable, but
Lovable.
also even scarier, because you're like, there's truly no bounds to what he will do. And
Yeah.
you know that every scene is going to get worse. And it's not only going to get worse in like a literal sense, but like a creative sense too. And I think that the fact that he loves the killing enough to make it different and like artful, dare I say,
Yeah.
like makes him just the scariest thing you can imagine, because you can't even fathom what he's going to do next?
He gets a real enjoy like you can tell he gets a real enjoyment out of torturing these people.
Yeah, like
And that's
the
the thing for
montage
me.
of him like chainsawing and like
Yeah.
like, come on, like that's it's funny, but it's sickening also. And I think that that's the true gem to Art the Clown.
And he doesn't speak too, so it's like having to convey all of those emotions just with, expressions on his face and different things like that. I mean, that's a true work of art, say for lack of better terms. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, the thing that makes him so scary is that he, out of like I think all of like the killers out there in like horror movies, he's probably the one that I would least want to come across, because you know that he's not just going to make it quick. It's going to be
No,
slow, tedious. He's going to torture you. So it's like I would
overkill.
rather just be like, if I'm going to die, just, make it quick and that's it. But it's like, nope, art, it's going to be this whole thing that he's going to go through. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm definitely good with that.
Yeah, it's like he speaks through his killing, which is like terrifying. And not only that, not only are you getting tortured, but you're watching someone enjoy the torture, which I think
Yeah.
is like just beyond sick and twisted? So I
Yeah.
totally agree with what you're saying.
And I mean, so Terrifier, like, we kind of talked about, it's become this one of the most popular modern horror franchises out there now. And you stepping into it, what does it mean just to be a part of that legacy and be a part of a film now that's going to be remembered for years and decades down the road, when people are going back and looking at these films and like, wow, these are some really gruesome, like, horror films. What does that mean to be a part of that legacy for you?
I mean, for starters, it's really cool. And I'm like, I truly cannot express enough how grateful I am to have been brought into this, especially this third installment that is unquestionably, kind of a pillar that they've been building for many years now. Um, but I just have to give kudos to everyone involved. This is a film that has been created by what started out as like a group of friends, has now become a family, that has now become a phenomenon, and that is really, really rare. And it's not only rare, but it's super selective in the sense that it's small, like there aren't all that many people, involved in the crew, in the cast. So to be a part of this kind of intimate little group, I feel very, very honored. And it's something that I never foresaw for myself per se, but I could not feel more at home and more in the right place. And it was just a joy to watch the commitment of everyone involved. And that is definitely exemplified by the film and its epic and how passionate it is in itself, but also the celebrations that we've been having after the premieres and just seeing that like everyone poured their everything into this film. And I think that you can feel it in its sheer magnitude of the brutality, but also the comedy and the beauty that there is to be found within it. So I feel very grateful. That's kind of where I'm at right now, just feeling extremely grateful for the opportunity and the experience and the ride ahead.
I'm sure if you haven't already, you're probably going to be getting tagged in a bunch of, different like fan edits and stuff like that on Instagram. And then I don't know if it's something like if you are interested in doing it in the future, but if you end up doing like conventions and stuff like that, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people, coming up to you and just talking about the different scenes and the whole process, you being a fellow horror fan. So it's a lot of fun just to kind of interact with everyone at those scenes. So if it's something that you do, it's like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be a blast for you for years to come.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have been looking into that and I have heard nothing but wonderful things from my fellow cast members in Terrifier. So I'm really looking forward to stepping into that space. And while I've never been to a convention, like a horror convention before, I'm stoked to start doing that journey and to just connect with other Terrifier fans from around the globe is like a really, really exciting opportunity and something that I'm super stoked for. So
Well, then can't wait to hopefully see it, out there in the future.
yeah, for sure.
And as far as just like, because being a fellow horror fan with middle of basically October here, what are some of your traditions, favorite things that you like to do, is favorite like horror movies to watch like for this month?
So for me, I'm a Saw girly, and I have to say the first Saw does it for me. That film, I think it's also just immortalized in my brain as something that just opened my eyes to like another kind of filmmaking, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
As you spend your childhood, I was from like a very like protected conservative town kind of vibe, and so like I just had never seen film a film that was not created to make you feel good. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
like having it, the fact that there was like this whole other like set of emotions that to draw from, and the fact that you could get equally and as invested as in someone's journey, even if like it wasn't like a hero's journey, if that makes sense. Um, it really just unlocked something new. So I definitely will be revisiting the Saw, the first one in particular, is something that I frequently go back to. Honestly, this October is flying by, and I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm like as epic as it is to be doing all this cool stuff. I'm like, I can't do any traditions this year.
Yeah. No,
I'm
that
kind of getting around this year, but I'll definitely make time to watch some films and hopefully do something fall related. Like I'd love to go and at least dress up at some point. So I'll definitely
yeah.
celebrate. I don't know what I'm gonna be yet. Maybe I'll just be Mia, you know.
There you go. Yeah, so you can definitely do that. But I hear you when you say that the month like this is like my favorite time of the year. So whenever even when we get to September, it's like September and almost to the end of the year just like flies by. It's like next thing you know, it's the beginning of the
I
new year. And you're
know.
just like, where the heck did all the time go?
Seriously. It
And
just
just
starts ramping up, especially when something like, exciting like a film release, and then it's
yeah,
like cool opportunities like speaking with awesome people like yourself and things like that. And then it's like, oh my God, it's Christmas. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, I guess next year.
And to wrap things up for you, Alexa, is there anything else you'd like to say just about the whole experience of Terrifier, and then where can fans just stay up to date with you moving forward in your career?
Absolutely. I think that my bottom line is just to say thank you. Thank you to every cast, every crew member, every fan who's supporting the genre, to every one of my friends who is really pushing themselves and gonna go watch this film, even though they are very scared to my family for supporting me, even though this is kind of a wild ride and really out there for me as an artist, to my agents for believing in me, to Damien for trusting me with this challenge. It's just it's gratitude and it's also pride. I'm very proud of myself. I'm proud of my
Good.
performance. I'm proud of Mason because this was a really big undertaking for us both. And I'm really hopeful for the future. I'm ready. I'm ready for anything that comes my way. And I feel like that's kind of the beauty of this role is I feel like I could do anything now. And I really hope that in the future I'm given the opportunity to develop that side of myself more and that fearlessness. Sometimes in this industry you can get pigeonholed into certain stereotypes and things like that. And I've definitely been kind of in that cheerleader, mean girl pigeonhole for a bit, which is not a bad place to be per se, but I know that I have more inside of me, and I hope that that's recognized and that I can continue showing audiences and pushing myself as an artist and developing other epic performances. But in regards to keeping up to dates and keeping up to date with me and other stuff that I'll be doing, people can follow me on social media on Instagram _Alexa Blair. I'm also going to be more active on TikTok, so Alexa Blair Rob on there. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to the future, and I am excited to start the conventions and also to keep growing as an artist and taking on new challenges.
Well, congratulations again on the role in the film, Alexa. We were talking about that, the film #1 at the box office, and yeah, I can't wait to see what's next for you and your career. Definitely, you guys make sure to give her a follow. I'll put that down below in the description of the video. And yeah, Alexa, just thank you so much for your time today. It was an honor, getting to talk to you about the film, and you are welcome back anytime in the future.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful to talk to you. And yeah, everyone go support the film. Woo! Hi, I'm Alexa Blair Robertson, and I play the role of Mia in Terrifier 3. And you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.